Long live the king! The king is dead. Or is he? With the chaotic release of Stable Diffusion 3, along with all of the other issues revolving the company, and the timely release of Flux and Flux 1.1, I thought that Stability AI was all but dead. However, it seems like that wasn't the case. In fact, it looks like the team's been hard at work and they've just released a brand new Stable Diffusion model, Stable Diffusion 3.5. Now, with the model comes a few updates that are of incredible importance. Now, the new model boasts a whole bunch of improvements, which we're going to jump into right now, as well as some important updates to the commercial license. However, if you're just here to see Flux and Stable Diffusion comparisons, you can check the chapters down below and jump straight to that. However, if you're still sticking around, the major updates are as follows. Number one, commercial license. This is a huge update because it was one of the major factors that people were really annoyed about with the original Stable Diffusion 3 release. If we look over here at the release page, they briefly mention it, where they communicate that the model is very clearly now free for non-commercial use, as well as free for commercial use where the generated revenue is $1 million or less. While that's a great starting point for a lot of startups and small companies, the big issue still lies with the enterprise license, where if we come over here and look at the self-hosted license page, we can see over here that enterprise is simply listed as custom pricing. Now, a lot of people are still not very happy with the clarity on this because if you are planning a project that could potentially scale, and not knowing what the pricing is going to look like upfront could be a major issue. It also leads you to the position where Stability AI could potentially change the pricing on you, leaving you in a bit of a pickle. This could be the case with Pony's creator, where he has stated in a tweet, which if I have it, I'll pull it up, that Pony will not be coming to Stable Diffusion 3.5. Now, speculation is this could be related to the lack of clarity for pricing in situations where the revenue goes above $1 million, or it could be related to Stability's not very tactful handling of inquiries around the time when Stable Diffusion 3 was released. Only time will tell. Beyond the licensing update, Stable Diffusion 3.5 comes in a handful of flavors. We've got 3.5 large, which is a 8 billion parameter model that is almost 4 times bigger than the open source model that we got previously. In fact, again, when Stable Diffusion 3 came out, we only got the medium model, which was 2 billion parameters. The Pro model was hidden behind the API, so it looks like they've actually given us the large model this time. It'll be very exciting to try it out. We have a 3.5 large, which is a distilled version of the 8 billion one that can generate images at 4 steps. And we have a 3.5 medium coming out in a couple of days. It's October 24 as of the time of this video. If you're watching it after October 29th, the medium model should be out. So we'll do another video to test that out and compare it as well. Now, Stability AI claims that the 3.5 model excels at customizability, performance, and diverse outputs, meaning that the model should be a little bit more representative of different types of people, basically implying it's not all going to be pretty people. And they claim that the model is going to be very easy to fine-tune. I'll have a video on fine-tuning coming up soon. And finally, that it should work on but relatively standard consumer hardware. They talk here about a bunch of visual styles that are in here. We can look at trying out a bunch of styles from the PromptCrafters database. And it's nice to see that they're being honest when it comes to aesthetic quality. They say that the aesthetic quality is not going to be as good as Flux Dev. However, they do claim better prompt adherence, so I have a bunch of prompts prepped for that. There's a few examples here, but I think let's dive right in and try out the model. So to try it out, we're going to be using the PromptCrafters database, a frequent sponsor here on Endangered AI. In case you don't know, PromptCrafters is a visual prompt database where they've got a whole bunch of prompts visually laid out for you. This is all curated for a whole variety of situations, including different types of art styles, situations, game art, character art, tattoo art, commercial photography, portrait, etc. It's a great way for you to start out your project. You look here for an image that you like. It'll give you a prompt to start with. The prompts are broken down based on their various descriptors, any enhancers that are used, and you can kind of pick and choose and work backwards to develop the image that you want. So I've prepped a few here. The first one is this one. The heroine has white hair and blue eyes at the top. You guys can read it out here. We've got various examples over here of what it looks like on Midjourney, and Flux images were not added to this, but it's fine. Let's go ahead and grab that and try it out. Okay, so here are the results. This is a little tool that I'm using that allows me to quickly swap between models and see the results. Over here, we've got the first prompt that was used on Stable Diffusion 3 Large. I changed it up a little bit after a moment to add a fixed seed so that things are a little bit more consistent. So let's have a look. So we're getting this anime style, really nice line art, great colors. I'm absolutely loving the details here in the eyes. At least for this particular image, anime style, it's a win so far for me. This is the Flux Pro version, so completely different style. Not quite as good. There's some strangeness happening here. We've got the flower kind of growing out of the head, and the eyes are not at the quality level that I would like. And this is the Flux Dev. Interestingly, the Flux Pro, and I've noticed this about Flux Pro, is it tends to lean very heavily towards these photorealistic styles, whereas Flux Dev is a little bit more flexible in jumping between anime, realistic, 3D, and so on. And again, an anime style. However, I think in this particular instance, my favorite image goes to Stable Diffusion 3. All right, let's check out the next prompt. Okay, the next prompt. Beautiful Russian fitness trainer stands and shows her perfect figure to full height, well-developed muscles, beautiful body, athletic legs, hips, and so on. Very descriptive description. If you want to have a reference down here, this is actually what Midjourney came back with, which is a bit of a graphic style. I think that has to do more with the fact that the original prompt used the Niji flag, so it's not a great comparative, but I think we have a reference here without Niji. Here we go. So we removed Niji, and these are some of the images that we got from Midjourney. All right, so now that we've got a reference, let's see what we got on Stable Diffusion. So this is the Stable Diffusion result. Not bad, but not great. I think the aspect ratio is messing a little bit with the proportions here, as she kind of looks short. The arms don't look right. If I could zoom in, I think there's some issues with the face as well. I'm just not generally overall happy with this particular image. We can see here that Flux Pro did a really good job. It decided to crop in to compensate for the issue of the aspect ratio. Skins look great. Body features look great. There is a little bit of weirdness happening here with the hands though. That seems to be a continuous issue, but overall 1.1, very nice image. I would say the same for Flux Dev. So Flux Dev was able to squeeze the entire person into the image cropped. Proportions still look right. No hand issues, and overall just a pretty good image. I think Stable Diffusion 3.5 loses out on this one. Next, I wanted to try something for a little bit more scenic. So let's see how these models perform with a bit of a cityscape. So we've got a thunderstorm-filled night with people coming and going, high definition, realistic movie style. There's a few elements here in the prompt that we're going to look out for. The fact that there is a thunderstorm, people coming and going. Let's see if the models can do all of that. Okay. So this is the Stable Diffusion 3.5 image. We've got the lightning. We've got people coming and going. I don't know about the realistic movie style, however. There is a bit of drama going on with the wet floor, but the crowds and the car positioning don't look quite right, and it has a bit of a painted style, even though we asked for high definition realistic movie. Not a great result so far. Flux 1.1 did slightly better. We got the realism spot on. This looks very photographic, even if the composition, it gives away that something is not quite right here. There's a little too many people, I think, in the image, but we've got the lightning, we've got the people going more than coming, and everything looks realistic with a good sense of contrast and drama. Same thing, we've got the lightning, we've got a street, people moving around, cars coming here. I genuinely don't know why all the models decided to fill the street with people. We said that there should be people coming and going, not fill the street with people. Very curious. I think it has less of a realistic feel than the Pro one though. But I do like the layer of fog that's kind of over here. But I think, once again, Stable Diffusion 3 loses out to Flux Pro and Dev. Moving on, I wanted to try something a little bit more along the lines of app and product development. So this is a prompt that basically gives a mock-up for a blue-themed interface on a mobile phone. It's a mobile app. And what we've got here is some descriptive elements as well as some functional elements. So we have here the design should feature a blue cross, a home page, a navigation menu, for first aid, tutorials, a section for live communication between protesters, educational resources on civil rights, and so on. So let's see how the models can take these elements and put them together into a design. Okay, so this is the Stable Diffusion 3.5 one. The first thing that jumps out to me is it actually gives us a bunch of screens, so that's a really good start, rather than trying to mesh everything into one screen. It has attempted to put text in, but the clarity is not the best. However, everything is relatively readable. Protest safety and first aid tutorials, live communication, some issues right over there. There's also a little bit of strangeness here in how these two pages are presented, one major phone. And while the design itself doesn't seem cohesive, this could be a okay place to start when designing a mobile app for inspiration. There's definitely a few elements here that I think could lend themselves well to the final product. This is the Flux 1.1 Pro version. I will have to say this one is a complete and utter flop. We've just got the two screens, and this looks more like just a home screen. The text is a little bit crisper, first aid, fear test aid tutorials. Okay, maybe that's not a win. And I have absolutely no idea what this second screen is meant to represent. So not very useful in terms of a layout perspective, design perspective, or inspiration perspective. So I think Pro is definitely a loss here. And I would have to say the same for Dev. I think Dev just loses even more. So when it comes to using which of the three models as inspiration for mobile app development, 3.5 seems to be the winner. Next, something a little bit simpler. Photo of three beautiful Gen Z women, two brunette, one blonde, in a luxurious office during an interview. It'll be interesting to see how the models handle not one, not two, but three people. And does it actually look like they're having an interview? Let's see what we get. Okay, this is the Stable Diffusion 3.5 one. They still haven't quite figured out faces, it seems. Definitely some weirdness going on here. Not really looking at the interviewee either. They almost have like a doll-like sense to them. Hands are giving us a bunch of issues here. Definitely a whole bunch of weirdness going on here. Overall, not very impressed considering this is supposed to be one of the highlight features that they mentioned in the blog post. This one is Flux 1.1 Pro. This looks a little bit better. Definitely looks like it's the lobby of a hotel. Definitely does look like it could be a conversation happening here, except for the fact that the two women that we are focused on are not looking at the person that's blurred out kind of here in the front, but they could have been distracted about something. It's not too far off from what we're looking for. However, as happens with many models, when you put more people in, you start to run into issues with a variety of things. In this case, the hands are definitely a little bit weird. The leg positioning seems fine. You can kind of tell that she's trying to cross her legs, but if you look closely, it is a bit weird. And also the fact that each leg pan is a different shade of denim. Overall though, still better than what we saw with Stable Diffusion 3.5. This is Flux Dev. This one actually looks really close. Could be a luxurious hotel, could be a private room. We've got the three ladies. We've actually got a fourth one over here. They actually look like they're looking at the interviewee. Still having some issues with the hands over here. And there's also the fact that they look like they could be sisters. Even here in the Flux Pro one, the two women that we can see kind of look the same. So this is an issue with Flux, is when you have more than one person, they kind of look like they're just variations of the same person, which is great for creating character sheets for consistent characters. However, not great for creating variety within a scene. Overall though, again, Stable Diffusion 3.5 did not perform as well as the others. Not looking good for Stable Diffusion 3.5. Okay, now we're going to try a interior design prompt. We've got one over here. The key elements are that we can see New York's 5th Avenue, ceiling to floor windows, two white sofas, and a low central modern table with black marble. It's a relatively long prompt. There's a lot of elements here that need to be taken into account. Let's see how the models perform. Okay, so the Stable Diffusion 3.5 one looks like it did a stellar job. So it seems like the model definitely has some strengths. It's performed well on an image that, even though I didn't explicitly say it was anime, the anime result was phenomenal. And interior design seems to be one of the strengths as well. We've got the two sofas, the view of 5th Avenue, wall to ceiling windows, black marble table, and I saw in the prompt as well that there's supposed to be a fern here on one side, a very large fern plant, and a painting on the wall with an abstract design that matches the ambiance. Yep, that's right over here. So I would say that 10 out of 10 for this one. Spot on. Okay, Flux Pro 1.1. Not quite as good as Stable Diffusion 3.5 when it comes to prompt adherence. We didn't get 2, we got 3 white sofas. We do have the wall-to-ceiling window, Fifth Avenue, the fern, the black marble table, and the abstract art painting. So it's still got all of the pointers in. I think the only thing that it messed up on is it gave us 3 instead of 2 sofas, but the image itself still looks very good. I would give it a 9 out of 10, whereas the Stable Diffusion one would be a 10 out of 10. And then let's have a look at Dev. Now, the Dev one is a very similar image to the Pro one. We got the 3 sofas, we got the same layout, we got the abstract painting, the fern, the wall-to-ceiling windows. The only thing here that's missing is we don't get a view of Fifth Avenue, right? This definitely looks like New York. It could be Fifth Avenue. I guess this could also be Fifth Avenue if you're higher up, I think, or lower down. I'm not very familiar with Manhattan. However, you've got the iconic building. So even if you don't know Fifth Avenue, you definitely know this is New York. Same thing here, that kind of has that American city vibe that could be New York. And this one just looks like a generic city. This does not give you a New York feel. So I would say we lost some points there, maybe a 8 out of 10 here. So point to Stable Diffusion. All right, something a little bit more cyberpunk. Again, lengthy prompt, a lot of things to keep an eye on. Robotic dragon, LED light, eyes, steel scales adorned with neon lights, and so on. We'll dive deeper into the prompt as we're looking into the image. All right, Stable Diffusion 3.5. Impressive image overall. I like the sense of detail. The image looks crisp. We've got the LED eyes, steel scales, neon green lights flying in the air. Yep, that's good enough. Cyberpunk style, dark blue background. Yep, and a futuristic technology sense. I would say the only thing here missing is we don't get that fisheye lens close-up feeling, but everything else is there. This is the Flux Pro one. This does have a little bit more of the fisheye feel, but it doesn't have, it has the bokeh and the very short field of depth, but not the distortion you'd get with a fisheye. But again, everything here is ticked off. We've got the LED lights, the green lights, cyberpunk style. Beyond that, the image is very crisp, very nice detail. It looks pretty cool overall. And then we've got Dev, which I would say is the weakest aesthetic-wise overall. The Stable Diffusion 3 and 1.11 looked very cool. In fact, I think aesthetically 1.1 wins in this one. I just really love this aesthetic. Whereas here, it just kind of looks bland, I'd say. But I mean, the main points are there. We've got the green lights, the red LED eyes, don't have the fisheye look and feel. And then the final prompt I'm going to try is menu design. So the prompt is a 1980s Japanese pad thai poster featuring a bowl of pad thai with chopsticks. We've got text in here. We've got the pad thai details, along with some details indicating the names and number labels for each ingredient, and an interactive map indicating the different regions where these noodles are sold. This is quite complex. I do expect most models to fail on this, but let's see how they do. So aesthetically, I love this. Very cool kind of comic style with the great lines for this particular image. It does look delicious, except for the fact that I'm vegan, so I'm going to assume that these are vegan. However, on the text side, it did struggle. There's a lot of these lines pointing to things that don't really mean anything. The logo up here is okay, a must-eat Thai, which is in this Thai font pad Thai release. Overall, the image is great, but it did not get a lot of the elements, including the background of the map. Flux 1.1 opted for a bit more of a realistic image. This definitely does feel like it's from an app. It's got some of these little icons down here, which we did say it did need it to be on a digital screen. This does not look like it's on a digital screen. Good choice of the realistic image. Impressively, even though the text is all a bunch of nonsense, it is laid out quite nicely. Good use of the negative space. The text up here is easy and clear to read, and the fonts are consistent, which I definitely can't say for this one. And then for the Dev, looks like the Dev one it did pretty well here. Again, we've got a realistic image, good use of the negative space, consistent use of the font, and this one actually has a map in the background, so not too far off. And that's the performance of the Stable Diffusion 3.5 model when compared to its contemporary Flux. Definitely some strengths there, definitely some weaknesses. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear down in the comments below, or even better on the Discord. Now, what if you want to install this on Comfy UI? Well, I've got you guys covered on that too. As usual, I'm using RunPod. I will have a link down below for a template that I've set up where you can just automatically set up the installation for this. It's very simple. Once I have the link ready, you'll be able to go to pods, deploy a pod. Let's grab a 4090, edit the template, and down here under environment variables, I'll have a variable for install SD 3.5, convert it to a 1, and that will automatically install Stable Diffusion 3.5 for you. It'll download all the models, put them in the right folders. That should be coming out by next week, I hope. I'll update the description down below once it's out, or if you're on my Patreon, you'll get an automatic notification. However, for today, I'm going to show you how to do it manually. So once again, I'm using Jupyter Lab on RunPod. However, if you are on Windows, Linux, Mac, the same folder structure applies. Just put the model in exactly the same places. We're going to grab the models from Hugging Face, which I will put the links for down below. Head on over to Files, and you'll see here the SD 3.5 large save tensors. Go ahead and download that and put that into your Comfy UI, Models, and Checkpoints folder, just like you've always done with Stable Diffusion. Do not put it in UNet, which is where all the Flux models go. Once you've done that, make sure that you also download, links down below, the 3 clip models I have below if you do not have them already. If you've used Stable Diffusion before or Flux before, there is a very good chance you could have these models. These are the standard Clip G, Clip L, and T5 clip text encoders. I will also include a link down below for the FP8 version. Use the FP8 version if you are running on a GPU with less than 24 gigs of VRAM. I don't know how low you need to go. If somebody can comment down below what the limit for this is, I will update it in the description. All right, once you've got those 3 models in there, you're pretty much good to go. You can then just go ahead and drag in the workflow, which has been distributed by the Comfy UI team. Again, links are down below. Drag it in and you're good to go. The workflow is very simple, very much like the old days. The only major difference here is we're using a triple clip encoder to grab the 3 clips, connect them into your positive and negative prompt, use a checkpoint loader where you can grab the SD 3.5 large. You don't need a separate VAE like you did for Stable Diffusion, just use the integrated VAE. Don't use the clip. Clip is done over here. And then you just connect the prompts into a vanilla K-sampler. Now, even though we're using a vanilla K-sampler, this does not work on Forge yet. Connect up your latent, VAE decode, and that's it. You're pretty much good to go. Super easy. I will be doing another video where we try out ControlNet and a few other things to see what tools work with this. I'm very curious to see if IP adapter works, ControlNet, and so on, and see kind of can we overcome some of the issues with that. It'll also be interesting to see what the fine-tuned performance is like. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And if you really want to help me out, please drop by the Patreon and support the channel. Your support helps these videos become possible. I couldn't do it without you guys. I love you all. Finally, if you like this music that's been playing around in the background, I do have another channel where I post all of the music that I create and use on this channel. If you like it, you can listen to it in the background. We've got some really nice lo-fi study work tracks. Go and check it out. Thanks.